or the first topic of today of the Roundtable News. And
Yeah.
again, I just want to reiterate that these are opinions that only reflects upon ourselves and not of our companies. Right? I'm a lot safer than Ray over there, but I just want to reiterate that. So let's go into it. Why Magic Leap is scamming everybody. All right. So I'm gonna go over here
Oh God.
and then switch my camera to this news article that we've been checking out here. So like the last time we talked, actually, it's funny how these roundtable news are tying into each other. Because it just takes about a month for things to kind of show its ugly colors, right? So Magic Leap the last time, kind of as a warning signal, a fire, or where there is a fire, there's smoke, right? Or there is when there's smoke, there's a fire.
There's fire.
They were asking $10 billion. That's kind of like a prayer, Hail Mary, that nobody bid on. And then shortly after they found out that no one's really liking them as much, they basically laid off, I think, a good portion of their staff.
It's like 1,000. It was like 1,000 people or something like that. They laid off.
Yeah, I didn't realize they were that big of a company to even start with.
Dude, they're enormous, man. Australia, Florida, offices in San Francisco. Enormous company. Yeah.
Well, I'm always impressed with these companies being able to build these hype trains. It's funny how these companies are all in your area, man, the Bay. They seem to be able to kind of hoard all this investor money and have nothing to show for.
Well, that's where the investors are. That's where all those like Kleiner Perkins and all those dudes are in the Bay Area. But like at the end of the day, right? I think I messed with Magic Leap, right? I tried it. I thought it was cool, right? I didn't think it was like $3,000 cool, right? Mm-hmm. And that's really what it all boils down to, is that unlike VR, they were able to get it. They weren't able to get the price down to something reasonable for that. So people on the streets would just be like, yeah, give me that, right? And with all of these things, the other thing I say about all these things is content sells, right? Content actually will sell the box, right? And I didn't see any content that would really sell that, right, to the mass market, especially at $2,000, $3,000 price point, right? And then they realized that too, and they realized they couldn't, or at least they currently were struggling with getting the price down to a consumer level, and so they're like, okay, let's just go with enterprise, right? And if you're going to go with only enterprise, all of the things that are related to consumers, well, that's done, right? Mm-hmm. Gaming, the gaming applications and all that kind of stuff, just, well, you don't need to do that anymore, right? Yeah. It's sad for the people that are working there, because just overnight jobs are gone, especially during this time. Getting laid off during the COVID stuff is like probably a horrible situation. But like, yeah, like I don't know about I wouldn't use such strong language as scamming and all that kind of stuff, because investors are going to invest in the promise. You know what I mean? And Magic Leap had a promise, and when you mess around with it, you're like, oh yeah, this is promising, right? But it just like money dries up, nobody's investing, everybody's like, okay, well, how's this going to be? How are you going to scale this? How are you going to sell this? And I think they could still be a viable business just doing enterprise, right? Because it could be applicable in that space for like architecture or for training or surgeries or whatever, right? It's just not a consumer device right now. So that's basically the story, right?
Well, as you were saying that, like, they had great promise. I wish I went back to college and redid it and majored in promises, because it feels like I'm in the wrong business.
It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of effort to make something that could convince people to give you billions of dollars. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. And
it's
from the size of the company, it was obvious, right? That
don't get me wrong,
all those people. Yeah, man.
It reminds me a lot of what Theranos was about.
Yeah, it's not even as bad as Theranos, right?
Because it's not as bad because they had a product.
They actually did.
So
they shipped something that worked, right? But
so I want to ask you this, right? From the time you demoed, and it feels like even the article I was pulling up and reading through, There was a lot of smoke and mirror. Like even the press and everybody, even the consumer market, was kind of like at arm's length.
Mm,
It's like, all right, I see where it can go, right? But like, let's just see where
yeah.
you guys actually, how close you actually get to it. But like, how far away, if you were to guess, how many more years would it have taken for them without any all these financial troubles and the pandemic to get to where they were saying that this technology will be for consumer and be basically a profitable business without investor money?
Yeah, I think they're still far, far, far away from that.
Too far away.
Um, like the video, the initial video they showed of
Yeah.
like the first person shooter in the office kind of thing.
Yeah.
Given the size of the screen, like the screen size is actually really, really tiny. When you're looking through the Magic Leap, the screen size is super tiny. It's like a little box, right? So delivering the promise of what that video was, like they're years away from that, right? And then on top of it, I have no idea what it would take to make that tech cheap enough and small enough where it wouldn't be so bulky and cumbersome, right? Um, so yeah, like I think they're way, 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 way far off, and that's also kind of why you do the pivot now, right? You're like, hey, we're really far from this. Money's going to run out, so let's kind of make a pivot and see if we could make a sustainable, profitable business, just focusing on the people that will pay thousands of dollars for the hardware.
Yeah. I mean, this pivot definitely is admirable for any company that can see the dangers and actually have a chance or give themselves a chance. But this type of pivot kind of reminds
Yeah.
me of like the GameStop type of pivot where it's the last roll of the dice before they
Well, yeah,
completely
yeah.
are
Well,
out of money. Yeah.
well, for sure, it's a Hail Mary roll of the dice, right?
Yeah.
The one thing we're not talking about is how they did this during COVID, right? And kind of mentioned COVID as a reason why they're doing
Exactly.
this.
Sneaky.
And that's yeah, to me that seems kind of disingenuous. I'll say it a nicer way. It seems disingenuous, right?
Okay.
It seems
Scammy.
like yeah, yeah. I,
To blame it on COVID, why their product is
maybe
5 years
yeah,
away from
maybe
being into fruition.
yeah, maybe it played a role in it, maybe. But like I think it was like when they announced it and they said, "Hey, we're shifting to enterprise," like
Yeah.
like I was not shocked by such an announcement, right? That just made sense.
Yeah, even with the pivot to the enterprise space, and this is something that I feel a very similar headset that was promised by Microsoft a few years ago, HoloLens, did, but they
Hmm.
saw kind of the path clearer and earlier, and they actually pivoted towards enterprise and have secured like a major American military contract since. And
Hmm. Hmm.
they're not as in the news as much for a consumer market, but they're definitely making money and profiting and are
Hmm.
probably leagues ahead magically. I don't know how much do you know about that
Uh,
headset as much
no,
as
yeah, no. I've actually tried both, and I
okay,
do think the Magic Leap was better in
okay,
my limited interactions. It had bigger aspect ratio, right? I don't even know what the current state of the HoloLens tech is these days. I haven't looked at any new hardware or anything like that. If there is anything new, but like everything about Magic Leap seemed better, better quality image, and everything seemed better than HoloLens. Like at least the last version of HoloLens that I tried.
yeah, but I'm pretty sure since Magic Leap doesn't make money anymore and HoloLens is getting military money that they updated their
Yeah, yeah.
technology
I'm not even
since.
sure. I'm not even sure if that's profitable. I have no idea, right? So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't comment. But yeah, yeah. Well, magically people will be there too, getting that military money eventually from somebody. I'm pretty sure.
More. They're getting that COVID SBA loan money, if anything. But in terms of actual money, I think they're far from it, man. A thousand people lay off, and even investors now are, I feeling,
Yeah.
are a bit too naive to think that they're going to be turning this around anytime soon. They've lost, I think, people's faith in its product, and I'm pretty sure the CEO is looking for a way out, if anything, and count lick his wounds.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
If they're smart about it. Or maybe
Yeah.
they're just going to talk to GameStop and work together somehow. Figure things out. It's just as ridiculous. But good riddance. Hopefully, this is the last time we talk about them. I always track them because they've always been super hyped. But I never really... I've never tried the product, right? It sounds like you were impressed with it. But from what I've seen through the demo, it just seemed too far away for it to make an impact immediately. Which is...
No, and I think it's the same with all of this stuff, right? Like with the early VR stuff, the newer VR stuff is built on the learnings of that. Technology has improved. There's HoloLens, there's Magic Leap, there's other spatial computing stuff, like people like ARKit just on your iPhone. There's things that Apple might be working on that people keep kind of hinting at, right? There's all sorts of stuff, right, that you're going to see down the line that's going to kind of try to improve on this tech. And sometimes you're the first person there and you fail, and then other times you're the first person there and you succeed, right? So it just depends on the time, right? I think it's the same thing with Google Stadia, right? Stadia is on the line of working on tech that was developed before that really failed dramatically, like OnLive and Gaikai failed dramatically, and now everybody's back at it again, trying to be successful with game streaming, right? And maybe everybody who's trying now will fail too, but then there might be somebody that comes after that and improves all the technology and learns the lessons, right? I think that's the main thing. It's about learning. There's a lot of failures along the way to actually being successful. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. I think through the rotting corpse of Magic Leap and Stadia, that we're gonna get something really good out of all this.